Good luck, Helen.
Good luck.
Where did you finish last week? Did you finish all of Paris stuff already?
Yes, I finished it.
Paris every single week?
What?
Paris every single week?
Depends how long it is.
Are you starting your TED tonight?
Good tech.
Hello.
Hi,
Yes, Mario.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All ready for tomorrow for Uruguay?
Not tomorrow. It's on Thursday, Uruguay.
Thursday, Uruguay? So who's tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Qatar and Ecuador.
Oh, Ecuador. Oh, okay. We don't. And what day is France? I think Tuesday. What?
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, I think Tuesday.
I think Ellie knows because we spoke about that this morning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he knows.
They have to play earlier in the year because it's so hot over there.
Yeah. And they play in the evening. So for us, it's in the morning.
Right. Good
Dog. Betty, put the video on, Betty.
Betty, we like to see you.
Yes, I finally got it right. Take a look. Thank you, Mario.
Well, just press where it says video.
I don't have a camera on my thing in my phone. I had it on my phone before.
You have a camera in your phone.
So I can do it again. Battery will die.
Okay, so
Welcome home, Timmy. Welcome home.
Huh?
Welcome home.
Thank you. I had the best time.
Today's Connie's birthday.
What?
It's Connie's birthday today.
Oh, it's Connie's birthday. Oh, send her a text. Happy
And Miriam
birthday.
Barker's birthday. Where did she go? She went on a
To, wait, I think she went to Spain. She went to Spain.
You think
Yeah.
she's home already?
Yeah, I think she only went for 10 days.
What?
I think she went for 10 days.
we are on 12 days, Eric Youth Test, Eric 19. Last week, we Avshalom was killed by Yoav ben Tzruya, David's nephew. And this parak, the long parak, probably divided in two. David HaMelech,
Oh, somebody has to mute.
everyone mute their system. Thank you. Everybody
Wait,
mute.
let's wait, let's
Okay.
wait,
And so again,
wait, there's something trying to put on too.
so even though you're mute, please come aboard with any comments and questions. So again, Shmuel Bet Perek Yud Tes. Last week, we learned how Avshalom was killed by Yoav ben Tzruya. And L'chora, the rebellion has come to an end. Now, David HaMelech is on the east side of the Jordan, where Yar Ephraim was located, where the forest that sort of ate up 20,000 of the soldiers that were killed, and Avshalom was caught by his hair in the forest. So there's going to be a process of reconciliation between David HaMelech and Klal Yisrael, piece by piece, right? David HaMelech is part of Shevet Yehuda. He originally ruled in Yehuda for 7 years. And then he eventually is going to be king for the rest of Klal Yisrael for 33 years, for a total of 40. This rebellion was a 6-month rebellion. And now there's going to be reconciliation. Not only that, a number of people who David encountered on his escape from Yerushalayim, like Shimi ben Gera. And he had an encounter with Mephibosheth, the son of Shaul HaMelech, or actually the son of Yonasan, the grandson of Shaul HaMelech. And Barzilai Giladi, his good friend. And so we're going to see a process of reconciliation, how David HaMelech becomes king again. He wasn't king. We'll see in a minute, a few psukim, what that meant. And now his crown is restored. Pasuk Aleph, Vayirgaz HaMelech. Mitzudas Sion says Vayecherad. Vayecherad means he was trembling. Lashon Pachad, with the way the Radak learns. Interesting, the word Ra'adah is an earthquake. So the movement of shaking, trembling, when we refer to Charedim, that's what it means. They are trembling and shaking in front of Hashem. That's the Metzuda explanation of Vayirgaz from Roges. Some people say he was excited. Vayal Aliyat Hashar, the gate is where there were various scouts last week that were identifying, oh, this guy's coming. And for the king to cry, it's not appropriate for the David HaMelech to cry in front of everybody. So he did it privately up on the roof there. The Koamar Belechto, as he was walking up to the roof, he was saying, B'ni Avshalom, B'ni Avshalom, my son Avshalom. Like when people are in mourning, they repeat themselves. Mi yitain muti ani tachtecha. Who would give that I would prefer to die in your place? Avshalom b'ni b'ni. The love of a father for a son, even though the son was rebelling against him. And we had debates among the Meforshim. Was Avshalom intending to kill David HaMelech, not intending to kill David HaMelech? But the love of a father for his son overcomes all of it. And it appears that David is in severe mourning because he had heard about the death of Avshalom. Pasuk Beis. Vayugad li Yoav, Oh. So anyway, I just want to read
I'm sorry.
the Gemara in Sota Yud on this pasuk. Hani tamne zimnin b'ni lama. It's 8 times that the word b'ni is going to be referred, not just in this pasuk, but in the next pasuk as well. If you add them up, it's 8 times. The Gemara says, Zayin de aske, mi zayin madur gehenim. David HaMelech is bringing Avshalom up through 7 levels of Gehenim. And then the 8th one, Idich, Ike de Amri de Korv Rachel Gabe Gufe. The 8th word b'ni was because Avshalom had his head cut off, but to bring his head closer to his body. So that in the future, his body would be Shalom. Other people say that the 8th b'ni was to bring him to Olam Haba. Now, we learned in Brachas, Zion, Amid Beis, Mizmor LeDavid, Bevorcho Mipnei Avshalom Beno. David said in Mizmor when he was escaping Avshalom. So the Gemara in Brachas says, what do you mean Mizmor LeDavid? Kina LeDavid Meboile. It's a eulogy of David. It's a sad thing that he has to run away. It says in Shmuel Beis, Any mekim alecha ras mitoch beisecha. Nosna Navi told David that in response to the sin of Bathsheba, I'm going to bring evil from your own house. Haya otzei. David was sad. Omar Shema Eved or Mamzer hu delochayis alai. Maybe it's going to be an Eved or a Mamzer who's not related to me. Kiven dechazad Avshalom usameach. He was happy that it wasn't somebody of bad yichus. Mishmach yomer mizmor. V'nei ha'am v'yoav b'rosham kishra'u maseh Avshalom klape avi. When the nation and Yoav saw the way Avshalom was acting towards his father, Amru shebevadai mamzerhu. First day, because remember, David had relations with a Yifas Toar, and maybe she hadn't megayired properly, and she was the mother of Avshalom. So the people said, must be Avshalom was a mamzer. Or maybe that the wife of David had committed adultery while married with David, and Avshalom was a product of that. A Jewish child of a proper Jewish mother would have never produced someone like Avshalom that would have acted in that way towards his father. Even the mamzer who lo'aya roy lachus alai. Not only that, if he was really a mamzer, he would have killed David without any rachmanis. So it's for that reason as well that Yoav and the rest of Klal Yisrael thought it was appropriate to kill Avshalom. If somebody's coming to kill you, you're supposed to kill them first. David rejected all of that. I know for sure he's my son. That's why he repeated the words b'ni, v'lo mamzer. He would not have killed me. And therefore, and therefore, David felt it was appropriate that he davened for him to bring him up from Gehenna.
Ernie,
Yes.
I'm sorry to ask you a question so early on. There was something that bothered me. I thought there was a glaring omission. When he found out that Avshalom was killed, somehow the natural response, when you hear a child has been killed, don't you ask the circumstances, what happened? Here, he's not questioning anybody. I found that very disturbing. I found that very surprising also. Someone, you're told your son has been killed. What happened? Was an accident? Who was involved, etc. There's no question here. I thought that was like a glaring omission.
But last week, remember the Kushi,
The Kushi, yes, the Kushi was the one who alluded to the fact that Avshalom was killed, but he didn't talk about the circumstances. He didn't, talk about anybody involved. I thought that was I don't know. I thought it was surprising. There was an omission of some sort. I don't know why.
it might have been due to sensitivity. Remember, there was a whole issue. Should they tell David that? We're certainly not going to tell him directly. Nobody wanted to be a Mavaser Raw. They didn't want to bring bad.
Absolutely. And
That's
Yoav obviously knew how David would react because he advised Achimaatz not to really touch upon the topic, right? But the Kushi didn't didn't follow that. I think didn't David ultimately kill him as a result of giving him that news?
No, that was before. That was when they killed when the Amaleki came. Not the Amalek. There was
I think also the Isha Kushi. I think I read somewhere that he was also killed in response to giving him that news.
It was the one who killed Sholem Melech that David had killed.
I think I don't know. I think I'll check it. But but when it was mentioned, I don't know, does anyone feel about this? You ask about, right, the circumstances. It just didn't make sense to me. Okay, whatever.
But they were at war with Avshalom, and David had given instructions. But we assume that he understood that he got killed in battle. He doesn't know the detail.
I would, especially when he said that absolutely that Avshalom should not be harmed. I think he would want to know what the circumstances were. I don't know. To me, that would seem logical. Okay.
An observation that Kapitel Gimel, when you say it in Kriya Shema al Hamita, you omit the first pasuk. You don't say. It doesn't include Mizmor LeDavid. It just starts Hashem Marabut Sarai. It doesn't say anything about Avshalom. I don't know.
So that you're talking about the Mizmor LeDavid bevorcho mipnei Avshalom beno Tehillim Gimel.
Yes.
When we say Kriya Shema Lamita, we omit the introduction.
Just an observation. I don't know what the relevance of it is, but usually they would include the whole capital.
Okay.
On a different note, regarding saying B'ni B'ni 8 times, the commentaries were saying there's a beautiful contrast. When a child loses a parent, he can elevate the neshama of his parent by doing chesed, by saying kaddish, which is very beautiful. However, in contrast, a father cannot do anything to elevate his child's neshama. The only way to do it is by prayer. And that's what David HaMelech did when he said B'ni B'ni. It was done by tefillah to elevate his neshama.
I wanted to expand on that. The Musar Navim says that how was David through his tefillah able to elevate him through the 7 levels of Gehenna? Zeu mishum shu ta'an va'abar ki hu ba'atzmo ha'Hashem b'chol ha'mas marim sh'asa banu. David took responsibility that it was his evil acts, particularly the chet with Bathsheba, that led to all of it. Ki lo haya nechshal b'maisa de Bathsheba lo haya ira maisa Amnon. If it wasn't for the Bathsheba act, the issue with Amnon, with Tamar, would not have happened. The son Amnon learned from the father. There was a lack of covered with immorality, so Amnon did the same thing with his sister Tamar, or his stepsister. That led to the whole problem, because Avshalom took revenge for the rape of his sister by killing Amnon. Remember, Avshalom then had to run away to Geshur. And if you live with non-Jews for a period of time, you might learn their way. So since David HaMelech himself had sinned, ונמצא שמשהו היה בנו זה, הביא אותו לידי יראה רוחנית כזאת. לכן על ידי הטענות האלו, אז כמזיים מדרגה, meaning the beni is the point that David is making, that it's because I was his father that led to all of this. So it was a specific tefillah. It's not just a general tefillah, it's a tefillah recognizing that it was his fault that led from A to B, from B to C to D, that we don't always recognize that certain acts that we do have tremendous ramifications. And the success of the tefillah was David HaMelech recognizing that. Okay, Pasuk Beis. Vayugad Yoav, Hinei HaMelech bocheh vayisabel alav Shalom. Now, Yoav is the chief of staff of the army, the one who killed Avshalom. And we went through last week all the various meforshim explaining why Yoav thought it was the appropriate thing to do, either because Avshalom is a morid b'malchus, or because it's a threat to the people. So Yoav is told that David is now crying and acting in an avelus fashion al Avshalom. Gimel. However, today was a great victory for the nation. And so the victory is now turning to avelus. They thought that the people thought that David HaMelech would be happy that he's saved, that the enemy has been destroyed, and he wouldn't be happy with the death of Avshalom. And now the Jewish people are in avelus, because they would have expected David to be happy. Pasuk Dalet, Vayizganei ha'am bayom hahu lavo ha'ir. And the people, normally when you have a victorious battle, they come marching into the city, but they stole away. The word Vayizganei, like behester kaganav, like stealing away, and rather than come into the city. Like the way people run away when they're losing in a battle. The word la'at is explained as ataf or v'chisa, covered his face, covered his head. That's saras navelis. Vayizak HaMelech kol gadol, b'ni Avshalom, Avshalom b'ni. And that's where the Gemara in Sota counts the 8 benis, the 5 benis in the first pasuk, and the 3 benis in this pasuk. And we read the Gemara, how it darshans. And Yoav understood that it's natural for a father to be upset about his son. But again, Yoav thought that Avshalom's chayv misa is a moed b'malchus. His death was bedin, and the din is when Bezdin kills somebody who is, is executed, somebody who has been adjudicated to death, there's no avelus. And Yoav is thinking that by David showing publicly avelus, he's sending a message that it was not kedin that Avshalom was killed. Now, in the end, we see that David commands Shlomo Melech, his son, in the first couple of Prakim and Malachim, that he should take revenge against Yoav. Asher asalish neitz saret tzvot Yisrael Abner ben Ner v'lam Asher ben Yeser vayargein vayasam dveil chamer b'shalom. But the reason that David gives Shlomo why he should not allow Yoav to have an easy death, he mentions the fact that Yoav had killed Avner, who was Shaul's general, and then later on, he's going to kill Amosha, another one of the generals, which they thought was inappropriate. You notice in those psukim over there by the Tzavah that David is giving Shalom, he doesn't mention that Yoav killed Avshalom. He didn't consider that it was an Aveira that Yoav killed Avshalom. He was masking that Avshalom was put to death, midin. However, perhaps David had wanted that Avshalom be captured alive, and Sanhedrin would don him. They would paskin him Lanisa. Why is that? Because when Sanhedrin adjudicates a case and declares that somebody should be killed, there's a kapara. He eventually admits, then they kill him, and there's a kapara going on. But here, where Avshalom didn't go through that process, perhaps there's no tshuva and he goes directly to Gehenna. And that's why he was upset. That the tsar of David was that perhaps Avshalom died without the opportunity of tshuva. That's how the Malbim explains David's actions in showing so much availus. And as we said before, he also had a self-recognition that a lot of what happened was due to his own fault.
So is the issue that David showed publicly his Avelis?
Yes, but there's a few things. You show Avel. First of all, showing the public Avelis is sending the wrong message to Klal Yisrael. David is trying to reconcile and reunite his malchus over them. So Yoav explains very practically, politically, what you're doing is not correct. By showing all this Avelis, you were supposed to be happy that this rebellion against you has been put down. Now, the Rosh, in his explanations on Moed Katan, brings from the Rami Rattenberg that is a din that you show Avelis, as long as someone didn't commit their Aveira, sort of lahachas against the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And so says the Rami Rattenberg, Afal pi sha'asa kama Aveiros, umara ba'avid, u'lamachus beis David, u'bal pilag she'avid. He rebelled, he had relations with David's wives. Even shlo asa lahachis, elamis avay alamloch, roy lahasab elalam. Midin, there could have been Avelis for someone like that. And others say that he was being misabel, the whole concept of malchus, that there's chilul Hashem, that a son rebelled against a father, 20,000 people have died. So there's Avelis mitzad, sort of a dent on the malchus. Pasuk Vav. So therefore, by Yavo Yoav LaMelech Habayis, Yoav comes to visit the king. Vayomar, Hovashta Hayom et Neichel, you have embarrassed all of your servants, Hamimati Nefesh who saved your life today. This Nefesh Panechov Nasech and your family, the Nefesh Nashecha, the Nefesh Pilagsha. The fact that you're misabel so publicly, Alav Shalom, you're embarrassing all of these people. Avshalom wanted to kill you, your family tried to protect you, and they're going to say, well, what is all of this Avelis about? And Avshalom and Yoav continues. You're showing love to your enemies, and you're hating the ones that love you. It's as if you don't have any officers or people who serve you. If Avshalom was alive, we were all dead. That would make you happy? Look how strong Yoav is speaking to David Amelech. Ve'ata pasuk ches. Ve'ata kumtzei v'daber alev avadecha. You need to correct this. You have to give him yasher koach on the victory. Hashem nishbati ki encha yotzei ime'alim ish itcha layl. Nobody will be with you anymore. V'ra'ala chazot, that'll be evil to you. Mikol harash abalech minerecha data. You'll be abandoned by everybody. That'll be the worst thing that'll happen to you since you were a child. How could it be that a subordinate like Yoav can speak to David HaMelech this way. Not only that, we're going to see that David HaMelech agreed to follow what Yoav advised. Not only that, let's think. Yoav was the source of all of this. He was the one that sent the Ishat Ko'it to make that whole story. Remember when Avshalom ran away? So they sent a very smart woman to come and tell a story to David. And that's what led David to bring Avshalom back. And that led to the rebellion by Avshalom. And it's Yoav who killed Avshalom against the command of the king to leave everybody alone. Yet, we have to explain, why did David listen to him and accept all of these bizyonos that Yoav is throwing at him? So there's three approaches. Number one, again, I'm going to go back to the issue that David felt that everything that had happened to him was because of this pasuk, Hineni mekim alecha rami beitecha, that it was the chet of Bathsheba. And the fact that Yoav is speaking so harshly to him, that's part of the oynesh. And he's mekabel it ba'ava. This leads to David's tshuva to be complete tshuva. I think it's very powerful. This is what the EAM said. I think we should be, when in our daily lives, when someone chastises us or whatever, speaks harshly to us, we should think very carefully, why are we receiving this kind of word from someone? Maybe we deserve it. Part of Hashem's plan for our own slichu mechila. David HaMelech, in hearing these words from Yoav, thinks that perhaps it's part of his tshuva and he accepts it me'ava. It's a big person to be able to do that.
But Ernie, but I'm also surprised at Yoav's attitude, because here previously, when he wanted to present David with bringing Avshalom back, he did it through Isha HaKohet. He did it indirectly. So here, it's really very, surprising that he's not afraid of speaking this way, because it is really not respectful of the Melech. So, I mean, that is surprising.
Right. So one approach is that David is accepting it as tshuva me'ava.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other is he understood a little bit as a politician, the truth in Yoav's words, that the people are not going to understand his behavior of the Savelas.
Well, it was definitely very wise. It was definitely very wise on Yoav's part, but still.
And on David's part to accept it. The people were moister nefesh to fight on his behalf. So now he's going to he's going to listen to Yoav and change his behavior because it's the smart thing to do. Even Yoav, when we go back and think of all the things that Yoav did, he's doing it for the proper kavanah. Even though they were against the Ritzon David. David didn't want Avshalom touched. But Yoav thought he's a mord b'malchus. If we don't kill him now, there's always going to be a threat to the malchus of David. And he's probably correct about that.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps David recognizes the kernel of truth there, and that's why he's accepting of this. However, the final pshat is he really was not happy, and he wanted to punish him. And in the end, like we said before, he was, because of Yoav's political power, he needed him. He was powerful in the tribe of Yehuda, so he delayed the punishment until after his death, when he told Shlomo Melech to take care of it.
But maybe Yoav had to sort of shake David from his avelos to get him to understand. So he had to speak to him very strongly.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So these are the approaches we have in terms of this dialogue that Yoav, very stark dialogue here between a general who works for the king to the king. Okay, so pasuk test. Immediately David listens to him. Vayakam Amelech vayeshev Bashar. He he leaves the roof and he goes to the gate. And word got out that the Melech is now at the Shar by Avokalam Melech Israel Nas Ish Lolo. And they came to either be Menachem Avelis, the other people who were not from the tribe of Yehuda, they went back home. The people who were along with Avshalom, they were afraid still that there's going to be revenge by David. So not everybody is coming to David yet. And now begins a great debate. Pasuk Yud.
Ernie, just I want to point out that Mayam Loez adds that we learn from this how a person who is an Avel should comport himself when in the midst of his terrible suffering, that he has to control his emotions. And even though it's a very difficult time for him, he has to remain composed and address people who come to be Menachem. So at the height of his grieving for Avshalom, he rose out and went out in public to show that he was not wallowing in his misery.
So the Mamlez is learning a din and avelis from there.
Is that true necessarily? I understand that David, as the king, had to comport himself properly. But when you pay a shiva call to someone and someone is emotional or can't control, I think that's part of the process of, if that becomes a cathartic experience for the person you're, paying a shiva call to, the king, I understand, has to comport himself properly. But is that a halacha that, someone...
Remember, the first 3 days and then the last 4 days have different halachas. For example, can you greet the person? So the
No.
sitting shiva should not, but that's the first 3 days. At the end of the first 3 days, you can respond. So the halacha recognizes that in the heat of the emotion, there's difference in how the avel can respond. And after 3 days go by, he's required to respond a little bit more with courtesy, etc. Because they recognize that there is a period of time in avels where he might not be able to respond and compose himself that way. So that's correct.
Question, Ernie.
Yes.
Are there a special set of halachas of avelis that relate to our melech?
No, I don't think there's any difference. There is a difference between a melech and an hedyot regarding what korban you bring when you are oiver and avera that has to bring a korban chatas. There is a certain din, the nasi, which is the melech, versus a hedyot regarding a korban chatas. But regarding avelis, I don't know of any difference. But I think Barbara was pointing out that for political reasons, it made sense for David to change his behavior quickly, maybe more quickly than his emotions would have allowed it, because Yoav was pointing out to him that he's going to lose the people and they're not going to come back to him as the melech unless he changes behavior. So there may have been a political reason for it. But in general, I don't think there's any different dinim for him.
Also, Ernie, in the pasuk where it says Yisrael nas ishli ohalav, that here there's it's saying that Yisrael is referring to the 10 tribes.
Right, but the other one, as I said, non-tribes of Yehuda. The first people that came back to David quickly were his tribe mates, the Judeans. The other Malchei, the other Shvatim had gone along with Avshalom. They're the ones that fled back to their house. They were not sure yet what is David's attitude going to be towards the to the people who were part of the rebellion. And we're going to see the process by which David assures the people that there isn't going to be wholesale slaughter, but that's going to be a step-by-step process. But right now, they fled back to their homes.
But would you say that this is the beginning of the division between the 10 tribes and?
No, this is not. This is. Remember, David HaMelech also didn't rule over all 12 tribes right away. First, he ruled over Yehuda for 7 years. Then later on, the rest of the tribes came to him.
So when is this occurring in terms of his kingdomship?
This is near the end of his kingdomship. This is near the end, near the end of the 40 years. This rebellion was 6 months. in duration.
Right.
And we're going to see what was the status of David during those 6 months.
Even after Avshalom has died,
Yes?
there's still tremendous internal conflict in analyzing their actions. You know, they're not totally succumbing to the situation. So because when it says Nadon b'chol Shivtei Yisrael, they're discussing, you know, amongst themselves, you know, the pros and cons and all the actions that David HaMelech had done. So it wasn't a fait accompli after Avshalom,
Abs-
you know.
Absolutely. This parak is a key transition parak, bringing David back into the Malchus, because this was a true civil war. So let's read the pasuk that Barbara was referring to. Vayi cholaham nadon. The people were debating. B'chol shiftei Yisrael lemor. Hamelech yitzilanu mikaf oivenu. In the past, David HaMelech was successful at saving us from Plishtim, from Amalek, from all of our enemies. V'hu miltanu mikaf Plishtim. Ve'ata barach min haaretz me'al Avshalom. In fact, the fact that he escaped from Avshalom, the other tribes viewed it as a positive. Let's understand. Even though, so up until now, most of Klal Yisrael had followed Avshalom. Remember a few prakim ago, we learned that Avshalom made a lot of intrigue. They said, David is not adjudicating properly. I can adjudicate better. And we said, Vayignov Avshalom et Leiv Yisrael. He was a smart politician. He was able to win over the majority of Klal Yisrael to his side. Now that he died, they didn't just immediately accept David HaMelech. In fact, the people were like a sheep without a shepherd.
And I was thinking, you know, when you talked about that Avshalom had stood out by the gates and he influenced people, obviously there was something that people were not happy with. There was a dissension, you know, amongst the people. They weren't happy with David HaMelech. There was some, always people are going to have issues, but it seems that Avshalom, as charismatic as he was, I think the people were not happy with David HaMelech and what he was, or maybe he was so busy fighting wars that he couldn't really, maybe he didn't take care of some other matters in the monarchy. I don't know, but something, you know, perhaps.
In order to be susceptible to Avshalom's blandishments, to the you're saying there must have been some unrest already, allowing Avshalom to be as successful as he was. I think that's a very deep insight. Now, what right now the people trying to figure out is David going to have revenge against us? By the way, the fact that they pointed out that he escaped not necessarily because of his weakness. He didn't want to give an opportunity for his son to sin against him or to kill him, or to have a complete civil war. I mean, they were done with kapschus that he ran away, not as a coward. Now, pasuk Yudal, v'Avshalom asher mashachnu aleinu meit b'milchama. Now, Avshalom, that they declare was anointed, has died in the war. Ve'ata lama atem achrishim lashiv v'melech. Now, the tribes of Judah are telling the other Klal Yisrael, why are you delaying accepting David HaMelech back? Now, this issue, where did we see that Avshalom was ever nimshach to be king? Well, there was never any pasuk that said that he was nimshach. So we discussed what was the status of the kingship of the 6 months that David was running away from Avshalom. Did he have a din melech? And if it says here that Avshalom was nimshach, was he the king? What's going on here?
By whom would he have been nimshach?
Well, he would have been nimshach by the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was with Avshalom.
Why would this?
Then the question is, if David is not the king during those 6 months, when David came back, why wouldn't they nimshach again David. Because we don't see later on that David had a second Mashiach. So the Sefer HaChinuch, one of the Rishonim, when he discusses the mitzvah Tav Tzadik Zion, 497, that's the mitzvah of Som Tasim Alecha Melech, that we have a din now of anointing a king. And the din was when David HaMelech was anointed, even though it was supposed to be forever, the din that Klal Yisrael have to appoint a melech didn't go away. For example, if there was some reason why they needed a new king, they could be nimshach. He says in Yesh Eze Siba, the din of Sanhedrin and going through a process of Mashiachas HaMelech is still okay, even though David HaMelech was Nimshach. Other Meforshim explain that there are two dinim in a Melech. You have to have Mashiach, but you have the Hanag of a Melech. When David was escaping from Avshalom, that's not a Hanag of Melech. So now, when he's going to come back to the behavior of a king, you need both dinim. If you remember, Abigail, who was Naval's wife, had told David when Shaul was still alive, yes, you have Mashiach, but you're not the Melech yet. So that's a raya that there's these two dinim in Malchus, not just Mashiach, but there has to be the behavior of a king as well. Others say that when it says that Avshalom was Nimshach here, the Abnei Nezer says no, it was just Lashon Gedula, that they accepted him as the Moshel, but there wasn't the physical Mashiach. Now, we also know that a Melech ben Melech doesn't need Mashiach, and Avshalom was a Melech ben Melech. However, there was a Machloikes. There was another Ben, Kalev, who was godled than Avshalom. So when there's a debate, who should be the king, even when there's sons, there's a reason for Mashiach. It says in Masechta Krisus, Daf Hey Amud Beis, Ein Moishchin Melech ben Melech. There's no need to anoint a king who's the son of a king, like Shlomo, the son of David. The Gemara asks me, Nolan, how do you know? Amar Rav Bar Yaakov T'chsiv, Leman Yarich Yamim Al Malachto Hu Uvana Kol Hayamim. Yerusha he means a son, a prince, gets the kingship as an inheritance. So, Freik the Gemara, Mad Mashkwat Shlomo, we see that they did anoint Shlomo Melech. Mipnei Machloikas Adonia. Those who were listening to the Haftorah today of Chaye Sarah is again right before David dies. The second oldest son, Adoniah ben Chagit, went around and acted as the king, and Bathsheba hears about it. And what about the promise to me that Shlomo is going to be the king? So there they had to anoint Shlomo because there was already a machlokes who should be the king. And Minolon Freik the Gemara the Chiasi machlokes boy Mashiach. From where do we know that when there is some question or fight that you need Mashiach? Amra Papa, Amra Kra, Bekerev Yisrael, Bisman Shalom Yisrael. That means when there's peace, then the Malchus transfers through Yerisha. But when there's Machlokes, then you need Mashiach. So there was certainly no greater Machlokes than at the time of Avshalom and David. So that's why there might have been either Mashiach of Avshalom or Mashiach of David when he came back. Did someone make a comment? No. Pasuk Yud Beis. Ve'amelech David shalach el Tzadok ve'el Eviatar kohanim leimor. So David, as we've seen before, uses agents. Here he uses two kohanim, Tzadok and Eviatar. These Tzadok was from the descendant of Elazar. He is going to be the Kohen Gadol during the time of Shlomo Melech. Eviatar was one of the sons of Eli. Remember that we learned because of the sin of Eli, eventually they're going to lose the Kuna Gdula. That's why he's mentioned second. Where does he send him? Dabru el Ziknei Yehuda lemor. Speak to the other elders in Yehuda. Lama tiyu achroinim lashivat hamelech el beito. Why are you going to be the stragglers in coming to welcome the king back? Udvar kol Yisrael bala melech el beso. And that the king wants to come back to his palace. Achayatem, he's speaking to his brothers in Yehuda. Atzmiu sariatem, you are my bones, my flesh. V'lama tiyu achronim lashivat hamelech. You're all from one shevet. Don't be afraid. Remember, many of his kinsmen from Yehuda went with Avshalom. So first David has to get those people back. Then, Villa Amosha Toimu. Amosha was one of his nephews, the son of Abigail, and he was the Sartsov of Avshalom. And he says, V'lasat Tomru. Tomru is without an aleph. Tamru, it was something bitter because later on we're going to see Yoav killed Amosha. That's why Chazal tell us this word Tomru is without an aleph. He reconciles with Amosha. Ko yaseh li Elokim ko Yosif. So shall Hashem do to me. Im lo sar tzvat lefanai kol yamim tachas Yoav. I appoint you now to be also a general under Yoav. So this is political step number one, that he's bringing in back one of the generals that helped Avshalom. He's appointing him one of the generals in his own army. Now, some of this is a little bit a hint that Yoav is getting punished because he killed Avshalom against the desire of the king, or the fact that he spoke harshly against him. Or he wanted just politically to make sure that Amosha is on his side, so he won't influence other tribesmen from Yehuda to go against him. There's a din that you also don't. We have ein moiriden malin b'kodesh ve'ein moiriden. We always elevate. We don't bring somebody down if they, except im sorach. Except if he did bad, that perhaps David in some way is demoting Yoav because he did bad. So, but then we have this back and forth. Did Yoav eventually gets punished by David? Now, I wanted to read something about something that the Mesilas Yesharim wrote. Yisera aleha chemdas hakavod. The Mesilas Yesharim, this is Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato writing in the 1750s, right? That the greatest, let's say, taiva, desire that a person has is to run after honor. A person can control his yetzer for money, for other pleasures. The hardest thing to conquer is the desire for honor. It's hard for people to see him lower from his friends. And people have fallen greatly because of this. What eventually led Yoav to kill Amsha? Ela hakavod. So it says the Mesilas Yesharim, hakavodu adoichik es leva adam yoter mikol hatshukos v'achendas shebe'olam. Running after kavod, and since Yoav saw it as a knock on his kavod, that Amosha was appointed as well as Sartzava, he ended up killing him as well.
So the Amasa, essentially, I think David had in his mind that he would appoint Amasa, who was the general, chief of staff for Avshalom, because he knew that Yoav would get so annoyed by this that he would ultimately come in and eliminate Amasa or have him killed.
But David's not happy about it. David uses the death of Avner and the killing of Amosha as one of the reasons that he told Shlomo to get rid of Yoav. Amosha now comes back with a full heart to be a loyal servant of David. So I don't see that David is playing a game here to get Amosha killed. I think he recognized that he has to bring some of his enemies back in order to get, and that worked because the tribe of Yehuda follows David now back, and Amosha is a key for it. Let's see the next passage. Vayetet levav kol ish Yuda kish echad. Everyone followed Amosha. After he was appointed the Sartzava of David, either he went and convinced them, or it's just he showed the people that he was mochal, that if Amosha was appointed to high office, even though that he was the chief of staff of Avshalom, that's a simon to the rest of Klal Yisrael that he's not going to commit revenge against them.
He is definitely trying to tell Amasa that he remembers that he previously was loyal to David, and he's forgiving him. But why wouldn't David realize that he is making Amasa as a target? Because Yoav is going to be very upset about it, and he is making Amasa as a target. So why did he realize that?
But he's under Yoav. Yoav is still the chief Sartzava, and Amosha's under him. Now he's a threat. So eventually Yoav kills him. So it doesn't look good. It doesn't.
David created that situation, did he not?
But it's no, that's on Yoav. That remember, David now has been nimchal from the Chet of Bathsheba. Now everybody's operating on their own yetzer and their own stuff. If Yoav kills Amosha, that's on Yoav. That's how I see it, and I think that's how the Meforshim see it. They don't see that David engineered Amosha's downfall through a point. In fact, it's a very practical thing that David does by appointing Amosha, and it worked.
Maybe he wants to get rid of Yoav that way.
Ernie?
You think that maybe it might be a way to get Yoav out of the picture because Amosha will kill him.
Yeah.
And so who?
Ernie, in Perikov, the next parak, Pasuk Yud, is where actually Yoav kills Amasa.
Yes.
I just want to read to you something what the Amam Aloe says. Yoav certainly despised Amasa for replacing him as the commander of the army, but there are those who say he might not have killed him were it not for the sin of gossiping and tale-bearing. Others have heard David instruct his servant to say to Amasa, "Are you not of my bone and my flesh? May the Lord do this and more, and if you will not, the commander of the army before you all the days instead of Yoav." So there was something on David Amel's mind that I think that he realized that he was putting Amasa in danger by, and I'm not sure for a reason, but
I think there was.
yeah.
Okay. I think this is a good.
Can I just add in the English?
By the way,
simple
this is a good spot. There's a good spot. We're going to stop here. Suzanne, continue.
No, just in the English translation, the simple English of the Art Scroll says in place of Yoav, not subordinate to Yoav. And Radak says, Kisana David es Yoav, al sheharages Avshalom, v'ratza lahasiro, shalo yiyeh tzar tzavo. I'm just reading out the Radak.
Right.
So
David Amelch definitely had issues against Yoav. I don't think he ever firmly concluded that Yoav killed him. I don't know. That's why I asked before, why didn't David find out what the circumstances were of Avshalom's death? But I think he may have suspected. And also he's responding to, even though Yoav was politically correct and did advise him, he still was disrespectful. And he went beyond the bounds of what perhaps he should have done. So
when the
I think David definitely was out to oust him.
Out to oust him when the pasuk or weaken him. He understood that Yoav was powerful.
Oh yeah,
and that's why he couldn't take direct steps. He took indirect steps, like Suzanne read from the Radak. But the end of the pasuk, when it says Vayishlachu lamelech, the nation sent back Shuv ata v'chol avadecha. And Yesh Omri, even the Shalach Lehem David Shekam Ken Yomru Lamasha Shiasar Tzava Tachas Yoav, in place of Yoav, Al Zeh Sholchu Am LeDavid Shlo Yisalik Es Yoav Milyosar Tzva'o. the people sent back the word, Shuv ata v'chol avadecha, all your servants should come back, including Yoav. So there was a political game going on here. Yoav had his own defenders, Yoav had his own supporters, and they right now sent back, fine, Amosha, but we're not going to allow him to replace Yoav completely. That might have been David's intent, but the other members of Yehuda did not allow it. So yes, there's this power struggle going on here in the army, and it's going to culminate in next week's parak as well. But we're not through with this parak. This parak is the reconciliation of David step by step. First, he had to do his own tribe, and that's what he had to do with Yehuda. And we'll see what happens with Shimi ben Gera and Mepiboshet and Barzilai Giladi next parak. This is a great transition in parak, how David comes back for his final days as king. Any other comments or questions or ha'aros that anybody would like to make about anything we said tonight? Okay.